decomposed, alive gruesomely by extreme levels of radiation. Hisashi Ouchi found himself in one of the most catastrophic nuclear accidents in history.
On the night of December 2nd, 1984, after approximately 40 tons of methyl isocyanate gas were released from the Union Carbide factory in Bhopal, more than 25,000 people died due to this incident, and over 573,000 people were affected by the gas. This is considered the deadliest industrial accident in human history, but no victim experienced such severe effects as one person had to endure every day. Who is this man, and what happened to him? On September 30th, 1999, at the Tokaimura nuclear fuel reprocessing plant in Japan, technicians Hisashi Ouchi, Masato Shinohara, and their supervisor, Yutaka Yokokawa, began their regular routine of preparing and handling dangerous uranium materials, where they were preparing nuclear fuel for an experimental fast breeder reactor. Nuclear fuel is basically nuclear material that generates heat to power turbines through nuclear fusion in a nuclear reactor. This nuclear fusion process is how a nuclear reactor generates energy, and this nuclear fuel is created from three important isotopes: uranium-233, uranium-235, and plutonium-239. While JCO was preparing this nuclear fuel, a small mistake occurred. The mistake was that they placed an 18.8% enriched uranium nitrate solution into a vessel that had already stored radioactive chemicals beyond the critical level. As soon as they did this, they saw a bright blue light coming from the tank. What happened next? Due to the imbalance of chemicals, an unexpected and uncontrollable chain reaction began, and within seconds, all the gamma radiation alarms in the facility started ringing. The three workers knew something very bad had happened, and they quickly tried to get as far away from the vessel as possible. But unfortunately, it was already too late. As soon as the accident occurred, Hisashi and Masa began to feel unbearable pain throughout their bodies. They felt nauseous, and they even struggled to breathe. When they arrived at the decontamination center, Hisashi started to vomit. The other three workers nearby lost consciousness. Soon, everyone was admitted to the hospital, and it was discovered that they were affected by radiation more than anyone else had ever been before. Hisashi was affected by over 17 sieverts of radiation, Masa by 10 sieverts, and Yuta by 3 sieverts. Now, before understanding how dangerous these figures are, you need to know what a sievert is. Just as grams are used to measure water, sieverts are the unit used to measure how much radiation a biological body has absorbed. Now, let's understand how much higher these numbers are from the worker's exposure. According to data from the US NRC, an average American today, surrounded by mobile, fast, and digital devices, receives approximately 620 millirems of radiation annually. Now, 620 millirems is equal to 0.62 millisieverts, and there are about 1,000 millisieverts in one sievert. Based on this calculation, the amount of radiation that Hisashi absorbed in just a few seconds was 2,742 times more than what a person today receives in a year. If these numbers still seem low to you, consider this situational comparison. The atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima killed millions of people standing several kilometers away. At the hypocenter, the location where the bomb fell, the amount of energy and radiation was the highest. Hisashi's body absorbed that same energy and radiation, making him the most radioactive person in the world. Soon after the incident, Hisashi's wife and young son arrived at the hospital. When they saw Hisashi, he did not appear as if anything had happened to him. His face was slightly swollen, and his eyes were red, but besides that, there were no visible injuries or burns on his body. However, Hisashi complained of pain in his hands and ears. The doctors could not understand how so much radiation could enter his body. And another concerning fact was that they had booked a taxi to reach the hospital, which took an hour. But they had no idea that this was only the beginning of one of the most terrifying deaths in history. To add insult to injury, JCO officials portrayed Ouchi and his colleagues as reckless workers who only wanted to finish quickly and head home. They claimed that they had chosen to mix uranium powder in buckets to save time. Despite Ouchi's positive outlook, his condition remained critical. When hospital staff learned about the accident at his workplace, they ordered a bone marrow test. The human body naturally replaces old cells over time, thanks to the chromosomes within us. Chromosomes contain our DNA, serving as the blueprint for cellular repair. Without this natural mechanism, survival is impossible. And so it was for Ouchi. When doctors received the test results, they discovered that this essential mechanism in his cells had deteriorated beyond repair. Ouchi's chromosomes were either abnormally fused or entirely destroyed. At an advanced stage, it became clear that his entire body was severely affected. Ouchi's skin had lost its elasticity and would peel away whenever medical staff attempted to apply or remove any medical tape. Large sections of his right hand were also burned. This meant that doctors couldn't use adhesives on his skin. Was scorched. Shortly after, painful fluid began to gather in his lungs, formed severely impacting his ability to breathe and speak. This fluid buildup drained his remaining strength, leaving him confined to bed. Despite being nearly immobile, Ouchi managed to express his love for his wife and family, who stood by him through everything. However, his condition continued to decline, eventually leading to him losing the ability to breathe without assistance, which forced doctors to place him on a ventilator. About 10 days following a stem cell transplant, Dr. Maekawa found encouraging signs as Ouchi's sister's stem cells were circulating throughout his body, indicating the treatment was working. His white blood cell count returned to normal, a hopeful development often referred to as the walking ghost phase, though short-lived. Within a week, Ouchi's condition deteriorated again. Dr. Maekawa performed an endoscopy to find the cause and discovered that Ouchi's intestinal lining had died. Without this essential membrane, his body could no longer absorb nutrients, leaving starvation or dehydration as possible outcomes. Yet, even this wasn't the worst news. Further investigation revealed that lingering radiation had corrupted the newly transplanted cells, stopping any chance of immune regeneration. Ouchi's suffering intensified as he began losing around 3 liters of fluid per day due to severe diarrhea, eventually losing control over his bowels and bleeding internally. The absence of the protective membrane worsened the bleeding, leading to a need for 10 blood transfusions each day. Meanwhile, his body was losing fluids so rapidly that the medical team struggled to keep up, replenishing up to 10 liters daily. His skin blistered, peeled, and constantly leaked fluids, worsening his dehydration. To help retain moisture, the staff wrapped him in bandages, though this only caused further skin damage and fluid loss. In a final effort to reduce fluid loss, Dr. Maekawa attempted skin grafts, but Ouchi's skin was so damaged that they wouldn't adhere. Nurses observed he eventually couldn't open or close his eyes and appeared to be crying blood. Despite Ouchi's worsening condition, his family remained hopeful. Yet, as his suffering became overwhelming, the medical team placed him in a medically induced coma to ease his pain. Unfortunately, his organs soon began to fail, with his heart racing under constant strain. Even while sedated, his heart beat as if he were running, and the strain eventually caused it to stop. With no "do not resuscitate" order in place, the staff revived him, though his brain and organs continued to shut down. Recognizing the end, Dr. Maekawa persuaded Ouchi's family to sign a "do not resuscitate" order, finally allowing him to rest. On December 21, 1999, despite the team's best efforts, Ouchi passed away from multiple organ failure at 35. Of the 3 technicians affected, Shinohara also succumbed to his injuries, while Yokokawa survived but faced significant legal repercussions for negligence. Ultimately, 6 JCO officials were charged with professional negligence, and the company paid billions in compensation, resulting in the loss of its business licenses,